Hi, my name is Jarvis Cooper. I'm an E-Prep graduate. Mama died 4 nights ago, giving birth to my baby sister Ann. Bubba cried and cried, Mama gone, in his little boy voice, but I never let out a single tear. There was a blood red as any set all over the bed from the birthing, and when Papa saw it, he rubbed his head against the cabin wall over and over and over.
I'm just going to be right over there. You can bring my phone after you're done. Thanks.
And made little animal sounds. Sukev washed Mama down and placed the baby on her breast for a moment. Remember, she whispered, Mama gone. Bubba wailed again, but I never cried. By all rights, we should have buried her with garlic in her mouth and her hands and feet cut off, with her being vampire kin and all, but Papa absolutely refused. Your mama couldn't stand garlic, he said, when the sound had stopped rushing out of his mouth, and his eyes had cleared. It made her come all over with rashes. She had the sweetest mouth and hands, and that was that. Not a one of us could make him change his mind. Not even Granddad Stokes or Pop Wilbur or any other of the men who come to pay their last respects. And as Papa is a preacher and a brimstone man, they let it be. The onlyest thing he would allow was for us to tie red ribbons round her ankles and wrists, a kind of sign like a line of blood everybody hoped that would be. But on the next day, she rose from out her grave and commenced to pray upon the good folk of Taunton. Of course, she came to our house first, that being the dearest place she knew. I saw her outside, my window gray as a gravestone, her dark-skinned eyes like the holes in a shroud. When she stared in, she didn't know me, though I had always been her favorite. Mama be gone, I said, and waved my little cross at her, the one she had given me the very day I had been born. Avant. The old Bible word sat heavy in my mouth. She put her hand on the window frame, and as I watched, the gray fingers turned splotchly pink from all the garlic I had rubbed into the wood. Black tears dropped from her black eyes then, but I never cried. She tried each window in turn, and not a person awake in the house but me. But I had done my work well, and the garlic held her out. She even tried the door, but it was no use. By the time she left, I was so sleepy I dropped down right by the door. Papa found me there at cockcrow. He never did ask what I was doing, and if he guessed, he never said. Little Joshua Greeno was found dead in his crib. The doctor took 2 days to come over the mountains to pronounce it. By then, garlic around his little bed to keep him from walking, too, had mixed with death smells. Everybody knew, even the doctor and him, a city man. It hurt Joshua's mama, and Papa sore to do the cutting, but it had to be done. The men came to our house that very noon to talk about what had to be. Papa kept shaking his head all through their talking, but even his being preacher didn't stop them. Once a vampire walks these mountain hollers, there's nary a house or barn that's safe. Nighttime is lost time, and no one can afford to lose much stock. So they made their sharp sticks out of green wood, the curling shavings littering our cabin floor. Bubba played in them, not understanding. Suki was busy with the baby, nursing it with a bottle and a sugar teat. It was my job to sweep up the wood curls. They felt slick on one side, bumpy on the other, like my heart. Papa said I was the one let her turn into a night walker. It's my business to make her out. No one argued, especially not the Greenos. Their eyes still red from weeping. Just take my children, Papa said. And if anything goes wrong, cut off my hands and feet and bury me at Mills Cross. Under the stone, there is garlic hanging in the pantry. Mandy Jane will string me some. So Suki took the baby and Bubba off to the Greenhouse house. That seeming the right thing to do, and I stayed the rest of the afternoon with Papa stringing garlic and pressing more into the windows, but the strand over the door he took down. I have to let her in somewhere, he said, and this is where I'll make my stand. He touched me on the cheek and the first time ever. Papa never has been much for show. Now you run along to the Greenhouse, man. Mandy, Mama loved you. This isn't her, child. Mama's gone. Something else has come to take her place. I should have remembered that. The good book says the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. I wanted to ask him how the vampire knew to come first to our house then, but I was silent, for Papa had been asleep and hadn't seen her. I left without giving him a daughter's kiss, for his mind was well set on the night's doing. But I didn't go down to the lane to the Greenhouse at all, wearing my triple strand of garlic with my cross about my neck. I went to the burying ground, to Mama's grave. It looked so raw against the greening hillside. The dirt was red clay, but all it looked like to me was blood. There was no cross on it yet, no stone. That would come in a year. Just a humping, a heaping of red dirt over her coffin. The plain pine wood box hastily made. I lay face down on the dirt, my arms open wide. Oh, Mama, I said, the good book says you are not dead, but sleepeth. Sleep quietly, Mama, sleep well. And I sang to her the lullaby she always sung to me, and then to Bubba, and would have sung to baby Ann had she lived to hold her. Blacks and bays, dapples and grays, all the pretty little horses. And as I sang, I remembered Papa thundering at prayer meeting once, behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death. The rest of the song just stuck in my throat then, so I turned over on the grave and stared up at the setting sun, asleep right there in the burying ground. Any other time, fear might have overcome sleep, but I just closed my eyes and slept. When I woke, it was dead night. The moon was full and sitting between the horns of two hills. There was a sparkling of stars overhead, and Mama began to move the ground beneath me, trying to rise. The garlic strands must have worried her, for she did not come out of the earth all at once. It was the scrambling of her long nails at my back that woke me. I leaped off that grave and was wide awake. Standing aside the grave, I watched as first her long gray arms reached out of the earth. Then her head emerged with its hair that was once so gold, now gray and streaked with black, and its shrewd eyes, and then her body and its winding sheet stained with dirt and torn from walking to and fro upon the land. Then her bare feet with blackened nails, though alive, Mama used to paint those nails. Her one vanity, and Papa allowed it, seeing she was so pretty and otherwise not vain. She turned toward me as a hummingbird toward a flower, and she raised her face up, and it was gray and bony. Her mouth peeled back from her teeth, and I saw that they were pointed, and her tongue was barbed. Mama gone, I whispered in Bubba's voice, but so low I could hardly hear it myself. She stepped toward me off that grave, lurching down the hump of dirt, but when she got close, the garlic strands and the cross stayed her. Mama, She turned her head back and forth. It was clear she could not see with those black shrewd eyes. Only sensed me there. Something warm, something alive, something with blood running like satisfying streams through blue veins. Mama, I said again, try and remember. That searching, awful face turned toward me again, and the pointy teeth were bared one more. Her hands reached out to grab me, then pulled back. Remember how Bubba always sucks his thumb with that funny little noise you always said was like a little chuck in toe, and how Suki hums through her nose when she's baking bread, and how I listen to your belly to hear the baby, and how Papa always starts each meal with a blessing on things that grow fresh in the field. The gray face turned for a moment toward the hills, and I wasn't even sure she could hear me, but I had to keep trying. And remember when we picked the blueberries and Bubba fell down the hill, tumbling head in over, and we laughed until we heard him, and he was saying the same 6 things over and over till long past bed. The gray face turned back towards me, and I thought I saw a bit of light in the eyes, but it was just reflected moonlight. And the day Papa came home with the new ooey lamp, and we fed her on a sugar tea. You stayed up all the night, and I slept in the straw by your side. It was as if stars were twinkling in those dead eyes. I couldn't stop starting, but I didn't dare stop talking either. And remember the day the bluebird stunned itself on the kitchen window, and you held it in your hands. You warmed it to life. You said, to life. Mama, those stars began to run down the gray cheeks. There's living, Mama, and there's dead. You've given so much life. Don't be bringing the death to these hills now. I could see that the stars were gone from the sky over her head. The moon was setting. Papa loved you too much to cut your hands and feet. You gotta return the love, Mama. You gotta. The veins of red rang along the hills, outlining the rocks as the sun began to rise. I took off one strand of garlic, then the second, then the last. I opened my arms. Have you come back, Mama, or are you gone? The gray woman leaned over and clasped me tight in her arms. Her head bent down toward mine, her mouth on my forehead, my neck and outline, my little gold cross burning across her lips. She whispered, here and gone, child, here and gone, in a voice like when in the copies, like the shaking of willow's leaves. I felt her kiss on my cheek, a brand. Then the sun came between the hills and hit her face full in the face, burning her as red as earth. She smiled at me, and then there were only dust motes in the air dancing. When I looked down at my feet, the gray dirt was hardly disturbed, but Mama's gold wedding band gleamed atop it. I knelt and picked it up and unhooked the chain holding my cross. I slid the ring onto the chain, and the two nestled together right in the hollow of my throat. I sang, blacks and bays, dapples and grays, and from the earth itself, the final words sang out, all the pretty little horses. That was when I cried, long and loud, a sound I hope never to make again as long as I live. Then I went back down in the hill and home, where Papa still waited by the open door.